However, you then go straight from that and talk all about small boats, and you call it an invasion. And the threat behind that inflammatory language is always about these big, big numbers.
You might not like the word invasion, Zoe. The definition of invasion is an unwanted incursion into one's territory. 139,000 people since 2018.
We also need to address radicalization of young white working class boys. And a lot of that radicalization is taking place by people like Tommy Robinson, Nigel Farage, and I'm afraid to say Matthew Goodwin as well.
Do you want to respond?
But just look at where the riots were. There's a reason the riots were so intense in Rotherham, because in many of those communities, people had watched the systematic sexual exploitation of young white women at the hands of Pakistani Muslim gangs. So what
And that was the theme of the entire debate, all of them ganging up on him. He really was in the lion's den here. It's Al Jazeera, so the panel audience, and especially the interviewer, Medhi Hasan, who was forever interrupting him, had been specifically chosen to try and discredit the professor's arguments. Hasan was very combative all night and was forever interrupting the professor. Here's the first clip.
We saw young British Muslim lads assaulting police officers in Manchester Airport. We saw young second-generation lad stabbing a British Army officer almost
What's that got to do with your description?
Because
of
just hear me out. In the course of a week, we saw the Southend machete gangs, mass violence. We had the riots in Leeds. We had evidence of communalism in other parts of the country. We had sectarianism at the general election just a month before.
In your opinion?
With independent,
is it not facts? Is it your opinion?
Well,
all interview, he kept calling Professor Goodwin's stats incorrect. It's his opinion, not a fact, Hasan says. Well, how about this for a fact?
Is elected as councillor for Gibson and Hales Ward of Leeds City Council.
Palestine will be free! And Allah sent his angels to come and assist me. This is a win for the people of Gaza. We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar!
That was a Green Party candidate who had just been elected in a Muslim area of the city of Leeds, Northern England, some months ago. So, in fact, it's not an opinion, is it? It is fact.
I understand, but you're avoiding the question, Matt.
No,
and we've got limited. You are.
I'm coming to the central point, which
please, deal with the child of Rwandan immigrants. I want to nail this down.
Is Britain an integrated
society?
And do the people who are coming into
What evidence do you have? You seem to be implying all sorts of things.
Well, I think it's...
we know nothing about.
Well, I think going out and doing a mass stabbing and going on a murder
A mass stabbing is very British. Sorry to break it to you. A lot of British people do stabbings and killings. This kid was a Brit. Is a Brit. Or is he not a Brit to you?
It depends how you define national identity.
Wow. So am I not a Brit?
No, I think it's, do you respect the country that you live in, and do you follow the rule of law?
Why are you bringing up the parents of this kid? Do you have any evidence?
We have lots of evidence.
You do?
Social science has lots of evidence that the second, third generation migrants bring over certain cultural habits, traits, practices.
Murder.
No, but for example, second generation British Muslims, for example, will express higher levels of religiosity.
He wasn't Muslim.
On this one, I don't know the facts, so I can't say for sure. But I don't think the fact that child killers' parents are Rwandan immigrants will turn out to be irrelevant. And no, he's not a Brit. He's a British-born Rwandan. The Manchester Arena bomber was born in England. There was nothing British about him. His parents were Algerian immigrants. The Manchester bomber's beliefs and actions were not a product of anything British. It was something we imported when we allowed his parents into the country. The indigenous people of Britain have a specific culture and customs that has shaped them over countless centuries. The more someone of immigrant heritage is integrated into that indigenous culture, the more British they are. This next and final clip is where they all tried to gang up on him over the cultural left's takeover of Britain.
You just said the new elite denigrate this country. I saw a tweet from you where you said London's a hole.
Well,
Sounds like you're the one denigrating the country, not the social
I hate to break the
class.
news, but London is not the country.
London is the capital city of this country.
I've been coming in and out of London for 40 years.
Fair enough.
You and I both know London is not what it used to be.
Well, I think it's better. How come
the
you're the one
national
who's speaking at
conversation.
Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, UBS, Rothschild,
this
Deutsche
is-
Bank? That's
this
not
is
elite.
a- it's a
Those are not the elite.
slightly-
I love the way you just airbrush the financial elites, the people with all the money from any discussion.
No,
very convenient.
I'm very critical of some of those people.
Then why are you
Reality is that almost in the entirety of our media ecosystem in the UK is owned by literally a small handful of billionaire men, right? One example would be Paul Marshall. He's the majority share owner of GB News, your spiritual home. He just bought The Spectator magazine. But all of us ordinary people have felt the pinch, have felt that we're getting poorer. He's now a billionaire. And he has been shown to share really radical extremists and nasty racist content online. He is the type of person who has the real power to set the agenda of the narrative in the UK. What you're talking about, the idea that the left sets the narrative on migration in the UK, it's just not realistic for anybody who's opened a newspaper in the last 40 years.
I'm really not sure what planet this woman is on. All the mainstream media is now controlled by the liberal left. GB News was set up because the entire mainstream media was pushing left-wing propaganda. They saw a gap in the market. That is why they are doing so well. No one is saying there is not a billionaire elite, but it's the left who are now in government. They control our institutions, the BBC and the mainstream media, the courts and justice system, the police force and Home Office, universities, NHS, and even the National Trust and English Heritage. It's the liberal left who wield all the power. That's the reality. Well done to Matt Goodwin for even agreeing to this debate when he knew full well that he was going deep into hostile territory.